do this, and I need to remove you there and go like this. Okay, hey friends, how are you guys? It's super good to see you here today. I am really excited about this show. This is a show that I've wanted to do for a long time. Today on the show, I'm going to interview one of my personal mentors, a man named Nicholas Boothman, who has traveled the world as a professional speaker and a New York Times bestselling author. He's made millions, he's inspired millions of people, and he's going to be on the show right after this. So the big question is this: how is a tiny percentage of entrepreneurs blow the pack away? What are they doing that we're not? I asked myself that question for 10 years. I was failing forward and getting sick of it. I wanted to build a coaching business, but couldn't make any headway. So I started studying them. I realized that the world's most elite marketers, entrepreneurs, and gurus were all using the same 4-step system. I call it the authority factor. On the show, I'm going to prove to you that the authority factor worked for them and it'll work for you. My name is Ken Dunn. Let's get started. So the big question. Welcome back today. We're going to have a ton of fun with everybody. Friends, I want to introduce you to a man that I don't believe needs an introduction. He is literally a New York Times bestselling author. He's traveled in dozens of countries all over the world as a professional speaker. And today he's agreed to let me ask him questions about how it started, how he got to where he is right now. So let me introduce to you my friend and mentor, Mr. Nick Boothman. Hey, Nick.
Oh, lovely. You say the nicest things. Keep it up. Don't let me interrupt you.
Well, listen, Nick, we're going to talk for the next little while about professional speaking. It's probably something that is on everybody's minds who's a coach, an expert. They all get to that point in their lives where they want to launch these professional speaking careers. And most people fail. Most people who try never get booked. But yet you've somehow broken the odds. So let's start off at the beginning. Let's start off before there was a professional speaking career. When did you first get the idea and how did it come to be?
Well, I used to be a fashion photographer for 25 years. I actually traveled the world doing that. I had studios on 4 continents, so that was pretty groovy. But that was back in the day before digital film. And I would occasionally get asked to go and talk to camera clubs, and I got invited to go and talk to the North York Camera Club, just north of Toronto, a very well-heeled community. And I thought, okay, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to turn up here. It's going to be a bunch of people with probably more camera equipment than most professionals, probably dentists and doctors and lawyers in fishing jackets with lenses sticking out their pockets and Kodachrome film jammed everywhere. And so what am I going to talk to them about? Well, I know I'm going to talk to them 5 minutes photography and 55 minutes connecting with people, because, well, that's more or less what photographers do all day long, more or less what everybody does all day long. And I did it. I spoke for 5 minutes photography, 55 minutes on establishing rapport really quickly with strangers. At the end, 3 people came up: a school teacher, a guy who trained airline personnel, and a doctor. And they said, can you come and do this? Yes. And they said, can you come and do this for my people? Not the photography, but the rest of it. And I went home that night and I said to my beloved Wendy, my wife, I said, I got a new career. I'm going to be a speaker. And she said, oh, really? I said, yeah. And I told her what had happened. The next morning I woke up and said, so, hey, you're still going to be a speaker? I said, yeah. She said, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, I don't know. She said, well, what would you do if you had to take a photo shoot of a speaker? I said, well, I'd rent a hall. I'd get some people to go there and I'd get someone to go and talk. She said, well, why don't you do that then? And by 11 o'clock that morning, I'd rented half the ballroom at our local Holiday Inn and contacted, back in the day, there was no email, but, well, there was, I don't know. Yeah, there must have been. I contacted them all and said, look, I'm giving a speech on face-to-face communication, $28. You've got to come and bring all your friends. 85 people turned up and they paid. And I did it. And I thought, oh, this is the life. So Woo, that was the beginning.
So
However, I must say that for all my euphoria, after I don't know a couple of weeks, it was going nowhere.
yeah,
So
yeah, totally.
now what?
And we're going to get into that here while we're talking together for sure. But friends, if you're joining me and watching this, we're live streaming everywhere because of the power of StreamYard. And because of that, you can make a comment below. You can ask Nick a question and we can instantly see it on our screen here. The only thing I'm going to ask you guys is if you're watching this live is to click that little button above that says, let StreamYard tell us who you are. So we see Sydney Brown just said hi, or she actually said, hey, hey, hey. And we're really excited to go through this. But Nick, let's just continue on there for a second, because I think you just were about to go where I wanted you to go. And that is that I would say every day, hundreds of thousands of people say, I want to be a speaker. And most of them don't have a freaking clue how to get started or how to stay started. And I bet you're not the first person to get like a little notch on your belt, something where your friends supported you. But what did you do next?
Well, I thought, you know what? Well, it didn't take me long. I thought, I know what I need. I think I need a book, and I think preferably a bestseller with a killer title. And well, you know, I thought, well, I better write one then, because that's the kind of person I am. And then I, you know, long time ago. But then I knew a model whose boyfriend, I was a fashion shooter. I mean, I knew a lot of people. I knew a model whose boyfriend worked for City TV in Toronto. I said, look, can you get him to get me on breakfast television? And I offer to go into any school that's got a bunch of kids who want to learn people skills so they can get jobs, so they can psych people out and ace jobs. And it happened. And I went on the telly, and we got, straight after, within a very short time, I mean, really short time, like a week, we had 9,000 students 1,400 students in 7 schools. That's what it was. 1,400 students in 7 schools. So I went around there and did it. And everyone says, well, what about a book? What about a book? I thought, this is it. Okay, better do a book. So rolled up my sleeves, still can't type to save my life. Boing, 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 boing. Did it.
Friends, very, very important information here that we're going to talk a little bit about later. But just in case you missed it, publicity and the credibility of an author. I mean, those two things were essential to what Nick did in the early days. But I want to live in the dream for a second. I don't want to talk about the details right now. Nick, you've traveled in, like, how many countries have you spoken? Do you even know?
No, I don't know. Funnily enough, the only place I haven't been, I've been offered. I even had the TV rights purchased for my first book, but in Brazil. But I've never been to South America. But that's about it. That's about it. Or the North Pole.
I remembered calling you one time, and I think I had just called you in the morning. It was early morning, and for you, it was late at night. And it wasn't Turkey, it wasn't Iran, but it was. You were doing like two or three talks in a period you were over there for one company, I think.
Oh, well, I was in Turkey and I was in Iran only a couple of years ago. Tehran twice in 1 month.
Tehran, that's what it was. You were in Tehran.
Tehran, which is in Iran. But yeah, I was in Tehran, and but also when I did a whole bunch was in when I went to Singapore. Singapore was amazing. I went to Indonesia. I went to Hong Kong. All over. That was great. But they expect you to read your book rather than give a speech over there. Still, they buy everything. Most of it not produced by me.
So Nick, like, you've always been like, I didn't know you when you were young, but I feel like I knew when you were young because of the immense amount of time we've spent together. And you've always been somebody that takes risks, and you've always been somebody that kind of bucks the status quo. But like, how would you describe the life of, you know, speaking in 30 or 40 countries and all these worldly experiences? If somebody's trying to get into it, it's going to take a lot of freaking work for somebody to become a professional speaker, and it's a hustle. But,
well, you know, I'd describe it the same way I describe being a very highly paid international fashion photographer, which seems to be the job that everyone wanted. Ooh, nice life. But, you know, you have to be bloody good. It's unbelievably competitive. And speaking is unbelievably competitive. But there are a few areas that that you need to be competitive in, rather than just being, I don't know, bigger, faster, louder. And that's what we put into this course. I mean, I look back and I you're right, I'm spontaneous and I learn pretty quickly.
Yeah, let me just say to everybody here, when Nick's saying course, he's revealing to you that I've convinced him to do a live online training on Tuesday at 12 o'clock. And so we're going to lay everything out there at that event. So that's what he's talking about, this course, he said. I actually convinced him to do a live workshop on Tuesday at 12 noon. And if you guys are interested in coming out to it, we're going to go deep dive into it. We're talking 60 to 90 minutes where he's going to lay out everything he's done to make millions of dollars and travel all over the world as a speaker.
Yep. Little things that if only I'd have known then what I know now, how different it would have been. But, you know, I scampered around and sorted stuff out and learned very quickly.
Yeah. Talk about, you know, one of the first things I remember when I look back to the beginning, I was trying to figure out a lot of stuff when I first met you. And that's one of the first things I asked you to do with me, is to help me to figure out how to create that first speech. And I remember one of the very first things that you hit me with was the hook, and how it's not just about what you've experienced and what you've known, but it's about the unique positioning of that. Can you talk a little bit about that for everybody's attention?
Sure. Well, I mean, the two fundamentals are having a hot topic and having a fresh approach, and then having a hook. You're not going to get anywhere. But you know, I'm going off topic a bit, which I'm really good at. But there was a fantastic show on PBS a couple of years ago called The Riff, and on it they had some really super guests like Brian May from Queen, and I forget who else, Elton John maybe, and a couple of some really major stars, and they were saying there's never been a pop song ever without a fantastic riff in it, whether it's Satisfaction, you know, da 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 da, and whether it's the Kinks, you know, whether it's Queen, and in fact it was Brian May that said, well, a long time ago, the guy who wrote something good went da 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 da. Where am I going with this? And you need a riff when you're a speaker. You need a hook. You need something that people will stick in their minds, and you can come back. You keep reminding them of the hook, keep reminding them of the point, and these things. Amateur speakers never even think about that. Professional speakers use hooks and points. I call it shish kebab.
Yeah, totally.
Steak and sizzle as well.
We're going to talk about shish kebab, steak, and sizzle all on Tuesday at 12 noon. And friends, if you have any interest in becoming a professional speaker, definitely click on that link that's in the bio or the notes above, depending on what platform you're in. If you're watching this or if you're listening to this show on the podcast, definitely join us on Tuesday at 12 noon. You're going to freaking love what I'm going to basically twisting his arms and making him put it all on the table, because Nick is a professional speaker. He has an amazing ability to tease you without going into the details, because he wants you for the next speech. So we're going to go into it. We're going to go into it all on Tuesday. Tell me this, bro. Two things I want to know: your greatest speech, your most memorable talk, the one that just puts a smile on your face every time you think about it, and the one you'd never wish you'd never done.
Well, you know, I am not the kind of guy that has favorite this. That they're all great. I remember all of them, but okay, that doesn't help. You know, it doesn't sell books. So I think I did a tour for a couple of years across Canada called The Power Within, and they were all pretty spectacular. They had bums in seat speakers like Dr. Phil and Richard Branson, who basically lounged around and didn't do much. But the content was filled in by the speakers like me. And I know it was because I got all the feedback. Those were pretty amazing, traveling from city to city to speak to 6,000 people who were probably all in the arena next door to the hotel. Up you get, out you go, dance around on stage, ponce them out of it, make them all laugh. You know, nothing to... Good, because you know your topic really well. Those were probably, you know, also I have to say, if I'm going stream of consciousness here, I did a speech once in Las Vegas, which was pretty outstanding for a guy called Ken Dunn. And that was a pretty amazing. That springs to mind as being one of the great ones. As for the bad ones, well, you can probably relate to this. I did a speech in New York, and there were about 700 people at a very famous US phone company. And just as I was about to step on stage and shake everyone through the ceiling, they said the company, the CFO needs to go on and have a few words, which was going into my time because I was the kickoff speaker. And he went on, and for 35 minutes, well, I ended up with 25 minutes. He told them that just this morning, the company had been taken over. At least 50% of the people in the room would be unemployed within about 6 weeks or 3 months. And now we'd like to introduce our speaker to. Well, that was pretty terrible. But I did go on and say, and that's why I'm here, to show any of you who've got to go on from here to find something new and find something much better. This is how you do it. So, but that was and I had 25 minutes left.
But so in that case, I mean, you're still getting paid for the gig, but you wanna perform. You want to give people content. How do you recover from that? Like if you're not a Nick Boothman and you're newer.
I guess you if you're speaking to 700 people, you're pretty good. But if you're just starting out, you look at what your core message is. My whole driving force is that I'm passionate about human potential. So I just look at what can I do now to help? And then you know what? I gave the speech to them that I'd given to all those school kids that I gave from my gig on breakfast television. Except I didn't tell, they're the same. But, I don't know, 350 people going to be out of work. What's the difference between that and a bunch of school kids who are out there, trying to competitively find a job? So I guess, but you know what, I really can't remember. But when you know your stuff, when you care about your people, it comes through you. It always does come through you.
We're going to talk about that more in a minute. But for everybody that's here right now, if you caught us live and you've never been live on the show before, go up into the comments right above our videos or below, I think, if it's on YouTube, and click that button that says allow StreamYard to receive your details. Because there's a couple people here on Facebook right now that are putting really great comments into the chat, but it just says Facebook user. We don't know who that is. And to that point, we're going to stick around for a little while, and we're going to talk a little bit more about professional speaking and how he did it. Then we're going to open up for a couple questions. If you have any questions for a man who has traveled the world as a professional speaker, he can honestly say he's made tens of millions of dollars in all of the things he's done with speaking and with books and everything else. I mean, he's lived an amazing life, and he's here to serve you tonight. So Nick, talk a little bit about the content, because I think this is something that in the world of the glitz and the glamour and everybody's speaking and everybody dreaming about, making millions, I think this is something that gets forgot. Is you've got to be qualified to talk about what you talk about. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of giving away stuff that we might be giving away next week, it comes down to two fundamental things, really. You need a hot topic, something that is important right now. What do people care about right now? They care about COVID, although that's got no future in it, but they care about unemployment. If you live in Texas right now, you care about the fact that you're freezing cold and all your pipes have burst, or the economy or education. That's a very hot topic. But what you need is a fresh approach. I learned that from my editors, and I had the finest editors in the finest publishing house in New York. And it's always fine. You've got to book, what's your fresh approach? The same, you've got a speech, what's your fresh approach? Why should I book you instead of so-and-so who's giving the same speech around the corner? You book me because for example, why should I get you to talk about how to make people like you in 90 seconds or less when I can get someone from Dale Carnegie Institute to come and talk about how to win friends and influence people? And I say, because I've got a time component in there. We can do it in 90 seconds or less. And if you can't, you don't get in there. You don't get in, because it all happens even faster than that. So these are things that you need to understand before you even start digging up a speech. But you have to have something that comes from your heart. Our friend
Nick,
Tom, go ahead.
Well, just hold that point for a sec, because Cindy Brown asked a question is right on point with what you're talking about right now. She said, how do you come up with a unique way of writing or speaking on an overspoken topic if everybody's doing it already? And that's the whole idea you said about a fresh approach. Talk a little bit more about what that actually means.
Well, I hadn't thought about that question, but until now, and into my mind sprung, I don't know if you know anything about lateral thinking, which is Dr. Edward de Bono came up with the term lateral thinking, which basically is just, well, he calls it the kind of thinking that's only obvious after you've thought of it, but it's the way of looking at topics from a new angle. And one of the things that de Bono suggests you do is go find a novel. Put down two numbers. One, if it's got 400 pages, put a number between 1 and 400. And if it's got, 25 lines a page, put down a number between 1 and 25. And if it's got 12 words on a line, put those numbers down. Think at random. Then go and find what the word is there. Find the next adjective or verb and make that work with your topic. Wow. It might sound crazy, but I can waffle on and give you examples, but in my case, it might. But you know what? In my case, it came from permeating the topic I had and thinking, well, I asked myself. I was on a plane once, and I said, okay, what the heck is this really about? And I said, it's about making someone like you in a minute or so. And I thought, ooh, well, how to make people like you in a minute now? How to make people like you in 90 seconds? Or less. How about me? And there it came. So that now it's easy. Now, because a speech is simply this. I told you have to have a hook and a point. All your speech does is prove your point. That's all. You have a point. When people like you, they see the best in you. That's one of my chapters. Fine. Now I'll prove it. That's all you need. So find out what you want to prove about your topic and make a speech around it.
So friends, those of us that are...
Sorry, I know it's really difficult what you're asking, and I know I'm making it sound simple, but it does come to you when you're half asleep somewhere or gawking out of a window.
Yeah, but the idea, Nick, is it is a simple concept. What's the difficult part is the implementation. The simple idea still takes work and effort to get going. Friends, if you're watching right now, if you happen to catch us live, I'm here with Nick Boothman. Nick has traveled the world as a professional speaker. He's published 5-6 books that have been translated into some 28 languages. He's been on bestsellers lists around the world. And I decided to hoodwink him and convince him to come here now and talk about how do you launch a professional speaking business. And this is only the teaser. On Tuesday at 12 o'clock, I've convinced Nick to do a live online training, 90 minutes long. We are literally going to dissect every step in launching a professional speaking business. It was 15 years ago. It blows my mind that it was 15 years ago that I first came upon Nick Boothman and convinced him to take me under his wing. Since then, I've had a Wall Street Journal best-selling book. I've sold 300,000 copies of my books. I've made well over $2 million as a speaker. And it's because of what Nick is going to share with you on Tuesday at noon. So click on that link in the bio or in the comments and register for our web training on Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Nick, as you look back over the speaking career, is there anything you wish you would have done differently? Is there anything that you look back and say, that one hurt a lot and I just wish I hadn't have done it that way? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I have a regret, not a regret. I have something like I have never had a great video, and it's just eluded me, and I don't know why. But there are people who have got great videos and crummy speeches, and they get one job. I got my work from my books, no doubt about it. I mean, I absolutely know for sure, especially now that my first book's 20 years old, although it came out again with a 2012 date on it. But I know that. But you know, I had like I get a good video, but I did one. I spoke in Portugal a couple of years ago to an unbelievable audience. In fact, I think you have a snip of it on one. But they had a video crew in there. It turns out I knew the video producer because I used to live in Portugal. I knew her as a child. Now she's the top TV video producer. I said, "Look, this is so great." She said, "Oh, Nick, I can't wait to film you with this audience. I'm going to bring 6, 7 cameras." She did. And when I met her afterwards, she said, "Nick, I got great with. It looks fantastic." I said, "Oh, I can't wait to see it." She said, "But our mics weren't working." Man, I had that kind of stupid problem with. So anyway, get a great video.
So what exactly do you mean by that? What should a video have in it?
Well, it's changed. This is something to ask a speaker bureau, but it used to be 15 minutes of you speaking. But you know what? People make up their mind. As we know, first impressions, in the first 2 or 3 seconds of you coming on the screen, they're going to say next. Make it good. Make it so your good title helps. And well produced. Everything has to be well produced.
You know what, friends, I'm so excited about this training on Tuesday at 12, and I just can't say enough about it. If you have any interest in becoming a professional speaker, like literally, if you have any interest in getting paid to inspire other people, just whatever you're doing on Tuesday at 12 Eastern Standard Time, cancel it. This is a live training we're doing. I've got it all planned out. Think about this. This is what Nick actually did. He developed a significant amount of experience over the years in face-to-face communications, being a fashion photographer. Like he won't openly say this, but there was a period of time when a lot of the people that he was taking pictures of were young models that were nervous because a whole bunch of fat guys were standing on a beach Googling at them. And he'd figure out a way to get them to be comfortable, to get the best shots of them. He did that for 20 years. So he became an expert in face-to-face communications. Then he turned that into a speech first. And then he figured out the book. Then he started meandering through it. I mean, Nick, how many years now total since the first idea of being a speaker was in your head?
Probably 23.
How many years did it take you to make to have your first $1 million year?
Not long, actually. Well, no, because the first year was probably, I don't know, 25 grand, but the second year was probably, 425 grand.
Right.
And it goes very quickly.
Well, the thing that the story that I remember that. Like, I want people to know the real Nick and some of the stuff you went through. I remember a story about all the kids emptying their piggy banks and all their savings to put enough money together to print a couple books for a promo.
Yes, indeed. Excuse me. I might get emotional now, but it was just my younger kids. The older ones had grown up. But I got into this and living on a farm, away from photography and everything, with 5 children. And my beloved wife, but when I farted around writing my book for long enough. My deal was I'd write 1,500 words a day until I could get dressed. So I would sit around, I'd write 1,500 words a day and cobble it all together. And then one day I got a request to be a speaker from the temporary, whatever they call, substitute teachers in Toronto association. I don't know what it was, at the Humber College. So I went there and they said, "Bring your book." I thought, I don't have a book yet. But anyway, I went to, I did have some words I put together. I found a publisher in my local town and went to them and said, "Look, I've got this book. I need 200 copies printing, but I can't pay you until I've sold them." And he looked at it, bless him, and he said, "This is very good Christian values. We'll do it." He did it. And then Wendy and I went to this event and we looked incredible. I had my Hugo Boss suit on from back when I was a photographer. Wendy, who used to be a top fashion model in Paris for Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Balmain, was in her Scarda clothes and in her Balmains, whatever. And we went there and we lost our car. We borrowed a car from the neighbor. We went there and we had the books and I did my speech. And I said to Wendy, "Look, if if anyone wants a copy, it's $10. And if they want a receipt, ask for a card or something. We'll send them a receipt. And so we did it. And after I'd finished my little talk, it was like in one of those bullring places, what they call them, where all the seats are raised up around you. The woman came up to me and she said, can I take a picture with you? I said, sure. She said, I'm like, she said, no, not here, outside by the lineup. I said, oh, yeah. So we went outside, and there was a lineup around the corner, and there's Wendy stuffing $10 bills in her pocket. And I actually grabbed 15 books, which I sent down to different publishers the next day. But we sold them all, and we left, and we got in the car and counted the money, went home, and then I sent a book to New York. And sorry, I've waffled off your point, but here it comes. And so I sent them to New York, and this one publisher, one literary agent, she bit, and she started calling, saying, "Come to New York," and I said, well, the book you sent, I'll send you the books. Then she called and said, well, she called one day and said, Random House have put in an offer on your book. I said, oh, great. She said, we're not taking it, not enough. So, I guess you know what you're talking about. Then she called a couple of days later, she said, are you sitting down? I thought, oh, yep, I wasn't. And she said, Workman wants you in New York tomorrow. I said, who? She said, all my life. And this woman wrote the Complete Idiot's Guide to Getting Published. So she was the literary agent's agent. She said, they want you in New York tomorrow. I said, great. I put the phone down. I thought, I haven't got any money. I can't get to New York. Well, my two youngest, who'd been loading the chairlifts at the local ski club, said, Dad, we got some savings. So they loaned me their money. And they loaned me their money. I said, Dad, it's yours. I got a ticket, went to New York, went into Peter Workman's office, and broke, but looking great. And Peter Workman said, I like your energy, I like your ideas, but who the hell are you? And all that. And we went through all that. Anyway, I left with a 6-figure advance on my book.
Wow.
Went back to Toronto and took out the kids and Wendy. Wendy gave me the last of her money. And on their plates at dinner were envelopes. And in the envelopes was, they'd made a very sound investment.
Wow.
That was an amazing evening. Yeah.
Friends, the big thing that I want you to get away from watching this little chat that we're having is the feeling that you get from being around Nick. Nick is a real expert. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people out there online today that are, claiming to be experts and claiming to be this and that. Nick is not inviting you to a webinar because he just wants to sit there and teach. In fact, I've been asking him for years to do this training, and thanks to the pandemic, maybe. You got him at a soft point. And he decided to come out, and we're going to lay it all out on Tuesday at 12 noon. And I believe by the end of that training, we are going to have a system that anybody can follow who has a dream to do the type of stuff that Nick said. So with that, Nick, anything further, any final thoughts before we leave?
Oh, well, you know something? I did. Workman gave me media training, and one of the things he said was, look, if someone says, do you have anything to add? You don't say no, you say yes, and then you say something. And you know what? If you've got it in your heart, and you want to share your expertise or monetize your expertise with somebody, this is how you do it.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys on Tuesday at 12 noon. Thanks for being here today.